This Town of Green Mountain Falls regular Board of Trustees meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, February 2nd. The time is 7:02. Again, I apologize, I have no video, but it is what it is. At this time, if you'll please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All trustees are present as far as I can see, except for Trustee Quinn. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to this agenda? I would like to add a comment from Andre Bracken about the DOLA and Bridges project, and I would actually like to add that right after this as item 3, so that he can be free to go about his evening. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Or is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Margaret can wave because she's muted. All right, so the next item on the agenda, Mr. Bracken, if you could just speak briefly about the projects and the cost overrun just a little bit, and then we will proceed on.
Absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Great. Well, thanks for having me tonight, and I appreciate having the opportunity to address the mayor and the board and the people of Green Mountain Falls here attending tonight on this, the rehabilitation of 2 projects. I guess specifically you want to talk about the Midland Avenue culvert relocation. And essentially these projects were going great, and unfortunately we ran into this water line situation. And, essentially this water system it's very old. It's basically kind of an antique system. Once you touch part of it, you end up having to replace a bunch of it. And just to do that, it's a major issue. Springs Utilities has to come out, send out their folks, and basically deal with valves all over the region in order to do the shutdowns and turning off the water here and there so that we can work in one particular location. Basically, this was, in my experience in having to do these relocations, of which they're not unusual to have to do. This one was actually very smooth. The contractor we had was skilled, very experienced at waterline systems, and what especially was good about what happened here, if you can find anything good about it, is that Colorado Springs Utilities responded immediately, and they basically pulled out all the stops to assist to get this thing done as quickly as possible for us. Springs Utilities provided most of the materials for the waterline relocation, the valving, thrust blocks, basically all the pieces and parts, so that the town didn't have to actually purchase all this, or else the cost would have been much, much higher. But as far as the cost of the project, it's not really, I guess it doesn't make sense to say, okay, that's the project cost, escalated, 50% or 100%, or because when you have a situation like this, you have a change order, and you have to decide if that change order is warranted to become part of the project. In this case, it was, because you could not finish the project without doing the change order and adding on this waterline relocation. Basically, it's a lowering. We had to lower the water line to get it underneath the new culverts. In in the existing condition, the old culverts had basically rotted out. Their metal culverts, and was essentially sitting on top of the water line. The water line was very shallow, would not have met the current CSU standards, and was in bad shape itself. So we found a situation where we had to fix your water system in conjunction with getting this road back open. One option would have been to not to approve the change order, and essentially you'd be saying you weren't going to continue with the project. So we could have just deferred the project and not did it, but we didn't think that was a good idea, because essentially what's going to happen is that when that culvert continues to fail, at some point you lose access for those properties, and that's a major safety issue. You really can't let that happen. So we really had no choice but to move ahead and fix the water system, water and gas, as well as finish the culvert. Typically, these water line lowerings, the cost of lowering itself was not unusual at all. They could be anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 just for the water lowering and the relocation that's involved by itself. So, as far as the scale of the project, the culvert project itself is a fairly small project. It's something that often could be done in a weekend or a week, but because of the water line situation, it complicated it and took a lot longer to get done. But again, we can thank CSU. They really sprung to action and got things moving, got the approvals done, the inspections, and were able to allow the contractor to get this finished as quickly as he did, even though it took a lot longer than just a typical culvert project.
Well, I really appreciate you talking to us about that. Essentially, we have a new water system going up there now. I understand we also got a new fire hydrant.
Correct.
Which is it's a big deal in a mountain town, especially when everyone's concerned about fire mitigation.
Yes. Unfortunately, with your water system here, the water lines often are built within the roadways, and whenever you have a problem in the roadway, you're always going to have to, go with CSU and check with where the water lines are. You can spend a lot of money to do potholing to determine the locations and, the exact location of these things. But it's kind of a toss-up. You may be wasting money just to do the location to get the depth when, it's kind of a go or no go. If there's water, if water's down there, and it's there, then that there could be a need to relocate that. And I think you're going to find that in a lot of times when you get into the roads out there to do any of this rehabilitation. Unfortunately, it's just an old system, and you're probably just going to have to assume that it's going to happen a lot.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Or do you have any questions for Andre?
Mayor Newberry,
Yes.
there is a question in the chat.
Oh, okay. Let's see if I can get that. Oh, so the overall cost overrun is about just about 30% when it's all said and done, all the change order, and so forth. And I have absolutely no idea how to answer one hydrant. It's 100 feet from existing. I don't know.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes, please.
I just would like to thank Andre for managing this project and bringing, his 30 years plus experience in engineering to Green Mountain Falls. Just so he really knocked it out of the park. And I want to make that known, and that I appreciate the work and efforts that he's done on this project.
Me too. I really appreciate it. It's a long time coming. It was very much needed. And thanks for coming by Great.
You're very welcome, Mayor.
All right. There's nothing further on that. We will move to the next agenda item. Is persons present to speak who are not on the agenda. And the first name I have is Dick Bratton.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to speak after Judy Piazza. We're going to speak on the same subject.
All right. Rocco, I have you next on the list.
Okay, thank you. Rocco Blasi, 10955 Belvedere Avenue. Trustees, good evening. Two things to discuss. The first involves item number 7 on your agenda, the special event permit. I believe any consideration of having a large gathering in our town should mention following the latest public health requirements in effect at that time. My second comment involves the January 7th special trustee meeting dealing with the cost overrun of the culvert project on Midland. I appreciate the update from Mr. Bracken. The 3 trustees in attendance approved, quote, an overage of funds to come from reserve. Given the rushed, short notice nature of the meeting and the vaguely open-ended wording of the approved motion, I feel it's both reasonable and necessary to ask for the town manager to present a full accounting of the project at your next trustee meeting. You mentioned a 30% cost overrun. I'd just like to see a spreadsheet and a budget analysis of that project now that it's closed out. I'll leave the remainder of my minute and a half for trustee discussion.
All right. Judy, you are next.
Oh, I'm not
Judith
sure.
Piazza.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Judy Piazza, 11160 Belvedere. And a couple of things. I just want to say, first of all, that I was attending the last Board of Trustees meeting, and I was really happy to hear that there were answers, like there were responses given to some of the comments. I was so appreciated that, because it's been one of my frustrations in the past where I felt like things were brought up, but then I didn't hear anything further. So I just want to say thank you for that. And I know that you've received, thanks for putting into the agenda correspondence, the free parking petition. I just want to say that it was kind of a pleasure and very informing to have this petition in people's hands, and it was very quick. We I think it was Sunday or Saturday that we had the petitions in hand, some of us in the town, and started getting signatures, and it was a pretty overwhelming response, as you might have seen from Facebook. And then also in the petition, I mean, most people were like, yes, let me sign this petition, as well as all the property owners. I know that Jonathan, and I've been in conversation with Jonathan, I know he's going to present his report on 16th. So I'll save most of my comments till then, and I'm going to continue talking with Jonathan about some ideas that we've had. So just wanted to say that. And I hope you've read the petition and saw that we had like 62 names, including the Facebook. Some of those had already done a survey, but it was a very good response in a very short amount of time. Within 4 days, we got those cold days. So, all right, thank you so much, and I'll sign off.
All right, thank you. So Dick, you are next for public comment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to reinforce what Judy said and add a little bit. The petition that arrived at Town Hall had 67 signatures, including almost all of our businesses. And that's a significant number of people opposed to paid parking. The lure of making money off our guests versus the cost of implementing needs to be weighed. The man hours to manage the program may very well exceed the profit and benefits. The idea has not been thoroughly thought out. The devil is in the details. Enforcement of parking regulations is very problematic and difficult. Quite frankly, I think most of the people who signed the petition felt that the act of charging visitors for parking sends really the wrong message. The wrong message to the visitors that we need to support our businesses. I hope you will take the petition seriously and will think through the whole process of what paid parking would involve before you take any action. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which is to bring into record the accounts payable from January 18th to January 29th, as well as the minutes from the Board of Trustees meeting from January 19th. Does anyone on the board have any corrections to either item? Seeing none, I would move to approve.
I'll second.
If there is no further discussion, all those in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Consent agenda is approved. Item 5 is consideration of resolution 2021-07, a resolution of the town of Green Mountain Falls extending the declaration of a local emergency in and for the town of Green Mountain Falls, Colorado to April 30th, 2021. Angie, you want to just give a brief overview on that, please?
Absolutely. So this is a resolution to extend the local emergency declaration. What this does essentially, from a legal standpoint, is as long as there's an emergency declaration out there, if there are federal funds, such as like the funds we got with the CARES Act, mirroring that declaration of emergency and filing that properly with the county clerks, makes us eligible to receive funding.
Or do you have any questions on this item?
Nope.
I would move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 And that motion passes. Item 6 is consideration of resolution 2021-08, which is a resolution of the town of Green Mountain Falls supporting the El Paso County Community Development Block Grant application. Catherine, do you want to speak on this briefly? Or at least Catherine was on here. Here she is.
So there's a typo on this also. I don't know if that was brought up at the beginning because I wasn't hearing stuff at the beginning.
A typo where?
On the top of the resolution, it says 2020-08 instead of 2021-08.
Yeah, that has to get amended. I am not hearing Catherine. Gianni, Did you work on this grant too? I think you did.
Sure, yeah. Catherine has a lot of experience with grants, so she did the bulk of it. But I and Angie all tried to kind of work together to craft an application for it's a community development block grant. And in the past, we had submitted something similar, but in a smaller scale. But we weren't able to follow through with that. I believe because we didn't have enough administrative oversight to be able to manage that grant at the time. And so this is kind of a continuation of that idea that had originated a couple years ago. So basically what we're trying to do is apply for a grant to establish increased ADA accessibility to our gazebo lake facilities. So we're requesting funding to help create an ADA compliant fishing pier and partial walkway as part of a kind of larger plan to basically improve the gazebo lake park. We kind of listed out multiple steps for our overall vision. After consultation with people who are familiar with the way that these development block grants are typically awarded and kind of what the goals of the committee are looking for. We tried to really craft our application to be in line with what is likely to be funded. And so we're really focusing on the ADA compliant portion of the grant with this application, with the idea that we could maybe use, if we get this grant, that we could try and find matching funds for other parts of that overall vision.
Great. And this resolution is basically just in support of it to go in the application packet. Is that correct?
That's correct. We would need a trustee approval to go forward with applying for the grant. We also, would welcome any photos that would help support our application from citizens, as well as any letters of support from seniors or families who would be in support of the grant. All those would be really helpful.
All right.
Can you hear me now? This
I
is
can
Catherine.
hear you now. Here's Catherine.
S-
Well, I was about
Sorry,
to ask
I didn't realize my mic wasn't working.
you, thought I was ignoring you.
So I've switched computers. So yes, with the understanding that the maximum amount that we could be awarded would be $150,000 in this particular grant for ADA compliance. We've included playground equipment to come up to that total, but we specify the minimum amount that we would need that would enable us to build the accessible fishing pier. That's kind of our bottom line. So any questions about that? I know Diane already talked about the need for letters and photos, and the input from the community will be really helpful.
All right, I would encourage everyone who's supporting that to send these in. Margaret, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. I just want to say thank you guys for all the work you put into it. It looks like it's really well written.
And just one more thing I wanted to add. I believe Angie had already put together sort of a template letter in case anyone does want to write in a letter of support. So just email the town clerk and they can get you that template letter.
Great.
And the deadline's Friday, right?
Yes.
So send those letters. Do it today. I'm making a note.
I'd like to comment that it's really nice to see the community come together and collaborate on a project, a vision like this. And I just hope that we can keep on getting things together like this. It's really nice to see the collaboration. Thanks for all your hard work on it, Tiani and Catherine, and all the advisory boards for participating and giving feedback.
Well, it's a lot of work. It's really, I think it's a very important project. You know, even when I worked on the smaller project before, I think people could really see the vision and the need for having more accessibility. And having more accessible playground equipment is really near and dear to my heart too. So I really hope that this all comes together. And with that being said, thank you, everybody. I would move to approve Resolution 2021-08.
I'll second.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 And that motion passes. Item 7 is consideration of a special event permit application for 2021 Pikes Peak Mission to Zero. Let me find my page on that. So right now we don't have a whole lot of information on it, but they have done this before. And Mission to Zero, as I recall, is a move to combat suicide, which is becoming more and more prevalent, and it's a very worthwhile mission. Do we have Mr. Lorero on here?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I appreciate you giving me the time to speak to you and the trustees. It's good to see all of you, in fact. You're correct. So the Pikes Peak Mission to Zero is an event that we started 2 years ago in your town, and it is to raise awareness for veteran suicide. The way we go about it is we get sponsors and donations in order to raise money. We find a suitable organization to provide those funds, where they then help both veterans, active, inactive, retired, separated, and also their families that are dealing with suicide issues. We had a very successful event 2 years ago in your town. We were very fortunate to raise approximately $12,000 that first year. We were able to donate $7,000 after overhead costs. Unfortunately, last year COVID hit, so we had to change how we did business, and so we adjusted from doing the event that you recall, where we basically had a lot of booths and vendors and that sort of thing, to just simply a poker run, which our motorcycle association ran. And the way we would raise money is based on fees on individuals riding within the poker run and that sort of thing. This past year, we were only able to raise about $2,000, which is still better than zero. And we were able to donate that to Mount Carmel Veteran Services Center, which is just down the hill from Green Mountain Falls. This year, we're planning on doing basically the same. So we're sponsoring Mount Carmel Veteran Service Center. In fact, we're basically partnering with Mount Carmel, and the format is going to be similar to what we did this past year, a poker run, mainly because we just don't really know what the status is going to be with regards to COVID, healthcare warnings and that sort of thing. And secondly, this past year has just been really, really difficult for small businesses and our normal folks that we would ask for donations and sponsorships. So it's hard to get blood out of a rock, right? So it's kind of a challenge this year. So we're looking at it realistically. So what would we like to do? First, we'd like to get permission again from yourself and your Board of Trustees to run the event in Green Mountain Falls. Be on the 18th of September. Like I said, the format is different in the sense that we're just doing a poker run, not necessarily setting up a large area, but there's still going to be a significant amount of motorcycles and participants that would participate. So there are some things that we would ask the town's consideration. One, to, like we did the first year, to at least close half of the main road parallel to the lake. So that we can use that for motorcycle parking. It alleviates a lot of headaches, and we still had a few where people parked in the wrong places and and that sort of thing. So we'd like to try to mitigate that as much as we can. We are still planning on doing an opening ceremony similar to what you saw 2 years ago, where we have a mounted color guard. We are looking at bringing in either one of the local bases, their honor guard that will play the national anthem. So that's a pretty good event. Mr. Bob McLaughlin, who's the COO of Mount Carmel Veteran Center, will be present, and he will give a few words for the opening ceremony. And then biker registration would start at 9 o'clock in the morning, with the last bike out of Green Mountain Falls by 11 o'clock. So it's a pretty short time span that we would be at Green Mountain Falls. You would be the first stop of the poker run. I estimated anywhere between 200 to 250 participants, and shouldn't say it that way, motorcycles, which could be one rider, can be two riders, right? So we would expect that folks would start showing up probably around 8 o'clock in the morning, which hopefully would bring a lot of business to the pantry or to any other businesses that are out there for breakfast and that sort of thing. So that's really the scheme of it. What the second thing I'd like to ask is just the town's consideration of waiving, if not all the fees, at least some of the fees. And the reason for it is that right now, like I said, because of the hits that we've gotten in our donor community, we're just not able to raise the money that we were able to. And I know there are special events fees and that sort of thing, and other ancillary fees that would address it. I would just ask for your consideration, the trustees, if you would consider, if not waiving all, at least some. That's all I have for you, Mary. Subject to anybody's questions.
All right, board, do you have questions? Virgil, I would like your input on this, please.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I, for one, am also a veteran, and I know what Arts Group has done in the past. 2 years ago was absolutely fantastic. The only areas that he's asking to be closed down and for an approximate time of about 2 hours is the area from Lake Street down to Hotel to include Lake Street. That's not a problem. It's easily managed. And I'd like to go on record as saying that the traffic control fees, should the board approve this permit, I would be willing to volunteer my time to go out and set up and take care of that issue on my own.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Angie, what would the fees be we would be looking at other than traffic control?
I would have to consult the fee schedule. Matt, did that come across in the application process, or?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Thanks very much.
No worries.
We'll look at that here in a minute. Board, did you have any further questions for Punch about this?
Yeah, can you speak to one of our citizens' concerns about what, I know this is planning to take place in September, but what COVID concerns or COVID precautions are anticipated for the event?
That's really up to what the El Paso, I think you guys fall under El Paso County, correct?
Yes, we do. That's correct. The El Paso County Health Department would be the consultant on the making recommendations.
Yeah, so they would be the ones that would set the parameters on large group gatherings, if there's a limited amount and that sort of thing. But like I said, we did do the event last year when it was basically the height of COVID. And the way we mitigated it is that we started at Pikes Peak Harley because they have a really large parking lot. And if you understand how a poker run runs, it's not a large group of motorcycles that takes off at the same time. We basically staggered them and they separate, and sometimes it's groups of 2 or 3 or 4, and then they ride on. If If they are going into an establishment, the establishment requires a face mask, they're wearing face masks. I mean, that's just based on following the rules of local businesses, but mainly what the El Paso County Health Department has stipulated.
May I make a suggestion and kind of jump in here, Madam Mayor?
Please.
Okay, what we have done in the past, Art, and I can provide you with contact information on this, is with Greenbox and with Bronc Days, a safety plan was put together and submitted to El Paso County Public Health. They are very flexible. Well, I wouldn't say flexible, but they're very easy to work with. And with the time frame that you've got from, you know, here to the event, there's more than enough time to do that. Of course, they're kind of dependent on, you know, what the higher ups do and decide to do as far as restrictions and stuff like that. But I'd gladly coordinate points of contact as well as a couple of sample plans for you if you'd be interested in that.
Yeah, Virgil, I certainly appreciate that.
And Ponch, this is Margaret. I'd be willing to do the same thing because I did the one for Bronc Day last year. So any guidance you need for that to be able to help.
Thank you, Trustee Peterson. I'll just bow out of this right now.
We also have a question from in our chat dialogue. Someone is asking if volunteers can assist.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you, one of the things that you can assist is help us with parking, so we're not parking in people's driveways and having Virgil to have to get his uniform on and you know, do the law's bidding. So that always helps. I mean, the way we managed it 2 years ago is I used our own members. They would be on both ends. They would guide the motorcycles in and they'd park them. It's a safety issue, right? So we don't want motorcycles just running around and pedestrians on the road. So absolutely, volunteers are always welcome. Like I said, the final point is going to be at Mount Carmel Veterans Center, and there's going to be live music. There's going to be you know, food trucks there. There's going to be a beer garden down there. So even in that location, we could use volunteers.
And I see that it's Todd Dixon who's also asking about volunteering. I know that for many years I have done the trash collection for different events. I am happy to do that for the town after this is over, and that would save us from having to ask our public works to come out and do it. And I wouldn't refuse your help, Todd, if you want to help me clean up the trash cans.
Mayor Newberry,
Yes.
the special event fee is $500 a day or $150 an hour with a 2-hour minimum plus a $100 deposit.
All right, and then the traffic control would be on top of that, but that is already waived.
Mm-hmm.
Board, this is up for your discussion. So we're looking at basically $300. Is that right, Matt?
In this case, $250. I think Art was saying it'd be a 2-hour total event in Green Mountain Falls. $100 deposit. Oh no, you're right. I'm sorry. 400 actually. The 150 per hour, 2 hours plus the $100 deposit. Math.
Oh, math, but the deposit is refundable, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so 300, and board, this is up to your discretion. And I am asking for your input. If you want to request the 300, if you want to request something different, it is your time to discuss. What I would encourage first is we could consider the special events permit application, then move on to discuss the fees.
Well, I think this sounds like a great event. I think it's something that a lot of people in our town can, you know, really get behind. The fact that they've had a successful event in the past, I think, is a good indicator. And so it sounds like it can be potentially a very successful event again.
So is that a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve it.
And I'll second.
And on the special events permit application, all those in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 First things first, the permit application is approved. Now the discussion of the fees. Ordinarily, it would be a $300 fee plus traffic control. Traffic control fees are waived and volunteered. I am willing to do the trash for that, which should be worth something. I don't know. And I am asking board for you to discuss what you want to do in the fees.
Well, I think the 2-hour event fee is appropriate. And with the deposit being waivable, because I mean, basically the deposit is for like if anything gets trashed, and we know that that's not going to happen because it was a really good event the last time that it happened. And there's already the savings there because isn't it like $250 for traffic control minimum or $200 for traffic control? So there's that savings there already.
All right, so it's your motion that a fee of $300 be requested, acknowledging that traffic control fees and the deposit are waived?
Yes.
This is
there a
Catherine. I'll second that.
All right, board, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 And Hodge, if you will just work with Angie about this, and we look forward to your event.
All right, Madam Mayor, really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, before we move on,
Yes, sir.
the fees that the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Club will incur is a total of $300.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Art, with your blessing, I'd like to pay that for you.
Hey, Virgil, we'll talk to you on the side about that. But I really appreciate that.
No problem.
And this is why I love our community. Next item on the agenda is item 8. This is the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee, the elected officers' approval. Fire Mitigation Advisory met on 1/28, and they elected to the chair David Douglas, Vice Chair Dick Bratton, Acting Secretary Matt Gordon. Board, do you have any questions about any of this? Dick, are you excited to take on a new role with fire mitigation?
You betcha.
If there's nothing further, I would move approval of these elected officers.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, let's see that move forward. I think we have some good momentum there. Item 9 is correspondence. We have a letter from Chris Briggs Hale, which was in support of the annex of properties and the art projects and green box. We have the GMF annexation press release, and we have the GMF free parking petition. Board, you have received all of those, and they are noted in the agenda as such. If you have no questions on that, we will move on to reports. First is the trustee reports, and I will start just by one comment or a couple comments in regards to the parking petition. I really very much appreciate your enthusiasm and your wish to get out there in the community. However, I would really very, very much encourage everyone who has an interest in this to see the presentation, to actually answer the questions and read the statements on the survey, because this is much, much larger than yes, should we, or no, we should not. This is actually a well thought out plan that has a lot of options to it, including how parking is managed, assuring that the people who live here or rent here or work here or own a business have their parking, options of would parking, I don't know, you follow anything in other communities, some parking is restricted at different times, and it's a much more nuanced conversation than just yes or no. So I hope everyone takes the survey very seriously and reads all the many options and things that are available. You know, we get tossed at us a lot that it's about money, and actually it isn't. For me, at least, this whole survey is about quality of life. And last summer, we received a lot of worry and complaint about congestion, and congestion including parking, and congestion of people on the roads, and how we would manage it. So this isn't really a paid parking notion as much as a managed parking notion. And I think I, for one, am looking forward to what the results of the survey are and hearing more about what options we have to really work on our quality of life here. Other thing, again, thank you everyone for working on the grants. That is a lot of work, and it's such necessary work. And I think a lot of times people who write grants are quite unsung heroes, because you really go through a lot of grunt work. And you never know what's going to happen. So best of luck to all of us on that. Diani, do you have any report?
Just wanted to say that the PRT committee, they met 2 weeks ago. They have a really long list of all these different items, sort of a wish list for parks, rec, and trails. And they're planning on meeting again tomorrow just to get through that list and start prioritizing things for review for the board. So that's kind of what's going on with PRT.
That's great. I'm really looking forward to seeing the minutes and the report and seeing what comes out of that. I know I've had people ask me about what's the status of the surveys of the trails, and I don't know, but I am sure it's one of many, many items on your list. Margaret, do you have a report?
No, nothing additional.
Margaret needs volunteers for Bronx Day. So if you aren't
Yes.
doing anything else and you love Bronx Day and we want it to proceed, Margaret's who you talk to.
Yes, thank you.
Catherine, do you have a report?
No, I appreciate the input for the grant and any community support letters, photos. We did get a question about what kind of what photos we're looking for, and you know, at this point, I think images of the gazebo lake park would be most appropriate. It could be, you know, children playing on the playground, people fishing, wildlife, just, you know, we're selling the park. So we're, not that that's the hard sell, but it just shows interest, I think, too, just to have the images as well as those letters. And I just want to also thank you, Jane, for your mention of the parking, that we are looking to manage parking because it was such an issue. And I think there's a lot of, I think folks have been really frustrated with parking in Colorado Springs, and in particular in Manitou Springs. I think that in the past, they've managed parking in a way that's given parking a bad name. And, even Manitou Springs has changed what they're doing with parking. But we're definitely just looking at options and hoping to, we appreciate the input from the businesses and the citizens, and that's certainly, a part of the picture in our consideration. So, we're just looking at options.
Right, right, and we need to consider options good for everybody. So, thank you for that. The survey is still available on the website, isn't it?
I do see the question here in the chat. This is Angie. It's so there wasn't a second survey. The first survey was open for six to 8 weeks, and it closed just on January 16th. Right now, John is going through, or Mr. Kane is going through those results, and he will present the results as well as recommendations on the 16th to the Board of Trustees, and there'll be a second public forum, community forum there too, so everybody can come and participate.
Well, that'd be great. I did misspeak because I forgot that survey actually closed. But I found the presentations to be very useful and actually quite surprising in what was presented. Much more surprising than I would have expected. So I do encourage everyone to attend that. We got our committee reports with our board reports. Staff, Angie, would you like to start? Oh,
Sure, I was on mute there. Sorry about that. I did prepare a statement, so I'll just jump right and read it. It has come to my attention that some in the community feel that I'm unresponsive to the town and citizens. I would like to reassure you that nothing could be farther from the truth. I sincerely wish to work in a cooperative and collaborative manner with all town members. In fact, issues have been addressed, and then the same information has been asked for, just in different words. Repetitive requests for information may be construed as fishing trips to get me to change the answers to fit an agenda that I'm not involved in. I do my best to provide information as it comes to light, and will continue to do so. Hostility and passive aggressiveness are counterproductive and lead to one side of a previously open conversation to become less than forthcoming and willing to cooperate, especially when questions have already been answered or the answers have been published and are readily available to all. Social media is not the best of places to air grievances and tends to create a mob mentality in search of likes or comments that are not conducive to intelligent and open communication. While it is very important to express opinions and feelings, it is always best to go to the well for water. That is to say that information is most accurate at its source, whether it be the person involved in the documented and or recorded transcripts that are official in nature, as they are not slanted one way or the other. In town government, it has been my experience, not everyone can have their way all the time, and some understanding and empathy must be involved. Things must be done at times which are not going to make everyone happy, but are nonetheless necessary for the common good. Consideration and cooperation on both sides of an issue are necessary to problem solve in a supportive manner, which not only solves the problem, but mitigates it in the future. In conclusion, I wish to thank everyone for their input on issues that concern the town, and I want to assure you that this town is of utmost importance to me and to my staff. We struggle daily to try to appease reasonable requests, but cannot favor one person or a group of people and not be responsible or responsive to the entirety of the town and its overall welfare. That's really all I had to say.
All right.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you. I think it's an important statement, and I appreciate your forthrightness about responsiveness. Matt, do you have a report?
Talk about a tough act to follow. I actually just wanted to share, I'm approaching my month anniversary being the town clerk here in GMF, and I'd like to tender my resignation immediately. No, I'm messing around.
Shut up.
Not funny.
I had wrote that one down earlier to say tonight. I was really excited for that.
Nice.
But I just wanted to say it's been a really positive experience thus far. It's honestly, it's been a whirlwind, a million things all at once coming at me, and I'm really excited to jump at them as best as I can. And I also wanted to share a perspective that I've noticed in my short time here, the transparent nature and the ability of our staff to reach out and really want to work with community members. That's something that I highly value, and something that I spoke with Angie about in coming to the community, and something that stating that is something that I value, and it's here. I'm noticing it. I've only been here a short amount of time, so I'm glad that culture is being, or that culture is being cultivated. Alliteration. But other than that, that's all I got for this evening.
All right, thank you. I think that's the real treasure of public meetings is, while we can't answer everything, people have a lot of involvement, and it is valued. Virgil, do you have a report?
Other than what I've submitted regularly, it's kind of a slow month. I would like to just touch on a couple of things. This ride to zero is very personal. I lost a very good friend of mine to veteran suicide a year ago on the 30th. If we can get behind Art and his group, they look rough, they're motorcyclists, they're not a gang, they're a club, and they're doing something good. If we as a town can get behind them and support them, it'd mean the world, not just to me, but to a lot of people. Thank you.
Virgil, I couldn't agree with you more. When I first met this group 2 years ago, obviously not last year, I was just so impressed with their professionalism, but also their warmth and their sincerity on this mission. And suicide is something we're going to see an uptick on. It's, I deal with young people all the time, and the isolation that we've had has been unbelievable. And I think it's exacerbated for those in the veteran community. And I hear you, Virgil. I mean, I'm hoping maybe people will help donate some money towards the fees, as well as just donate it towards this mission in general. Very important mission, and it's very meaningful. And I'm glad that we as a town can step up and be behind something really positive. And to wrap up, again, thank you, everybody. I mean it in utmost sincerity. I appreciate the people in the town who get involved. those who don't get involved but like to know what's going on, just as valuable. Thank you so much to the board. Your volunteer time is much appreciated. And thank you to our staff. You know, you get the brunt of a lot of the whipping, but you also should know that you're very valued. We appreciate your work, and I'm glad we're all in this together. And if there is nothing further, let's adjourn this meeting. We are going to see you again in 2 weeks. The time is 8:02.
Thanks, everybody.
Night.
Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you.